Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, hello. Good morning, everybody. It's 9:08 on Friday, July 29th, 2016. I'm still drunk from the Hillary speech. We had a little bit of morning sloth this morning, last day of camp for the week. And, of course, I think last day we haven't signed up for a formal camp this summer. So we all relaxed for the rest of the summer. I'm not sure whether that makes the schedule better or worse. The kids could, of course, wake up right in the middle of the show and just start screaming for breakfast, even though they should be able to take care of themselves. They can't yet drive. I still have to take them there. And boy, if you've got one drag-ass kid on a Friday, it is difficult to get them out the door. But here we are. Many of you were probably up late last night. I was up regular time. I'm usually up about that late anyway, so it didn't seem much different. I'm exhausted from democracy. I really am. I'm tired of speeches. I've had enough. What do you think? Think it's going to work? I guess so. Hillary Clinton gave her speech last night. Hillary Clinton, not a soaring rhetorician, I guess. She just isn't. But okay. Perfectly good speech. Actually, quite a good one for Hillary. She's just, she just doesn't have that same thing that people look to. Barack Obama. She's not Bill Clinton. They're different people, and it's okay, and you should elect a different person president every once in a while. It has nothing to do with that, and quite honestly, if the phone rings at 3 a.m., whatever, the hotline goes on, you're meeting with the Joint Chiefs, do you really need to be asked, what dreams may come, just handle the situation. That's what she does. I'm cool with it. It's okay. There really was some good soaring rhetoric last night. Reverend Barber, who he's the Moral Mondays guy, right? He's the president of the NAACP in North Carolina, and he did the preacher speech. It was quite amazing, and that was the soaring stuff you were looking for. I don't know if I would have gone back to the word defibrillator a second time. I think he helped him illustrate the point. I like the shock the heart line, but being the moral defibrillator, maybe just you could have said the moral shock that restarts, that fixes heals the bad heart. I liked that. Okay, but I'll give him a pass on the second use of defibrillator. By the way, here at Kagro in the Morning headquarters, welcome to Windows 10. Click next. What do you think? Oh my God, it's time to enter I can't even, thank God. I'm so glad I downloaded this thing. I knew this was coming. Enter the product key. Look for it in the box that your Windows DVD came in. Guess what? I don't have a Windows DVD. Well, what about your Windows 8 DVD? I downloaded that too. Well, what about your Windows 7 DVD? It was preloaded on the machine. I don't have it. It's not, maybe it's in a drawer somewhere. So this computer is out of commission thanks to Windows 10. It's not really your fault, Windows 10. You're just doing your job, but man, do you ever suck. All right, anyway, already bad experience with that. I'm sure it's fine. My brother Mark tweeting to me privately yesterday, F you. Basically, that was our Windows 8 and 10 rule. I have a hard time believing that he believes that, but there it is. So now I got this blue screen, time to enter the product key to stare at. I'm going to have to stare at something else for the rest of the day and get my news from there. What's hot this morning on Twitter? Everybody talking about the convention, of course. Why not? And their observations of it. I guess most important, top of the list for me right now is Bill's morning tweet. Daily Co's Radio is live now after 15 minutes of waiting. Kagro X, that's me, David Waldman, tries broadcasting backwards in high heels. Not so easy, is it? No, that's true, but I thought about that line. I don't know if I like the back. I understand the line, but you do everything backwards. That's not complimentary, but okay, I know. I see the point. High heels, I just think is crazy. Plus, you're lying about your height, so let's just banish those. And I'm sure There are probably quite a few women who would be perfectly happy to get rid of him, as it happens. Anyway, morning Twitter chatter from the Where Are All the Moderate Muslims people. We learn via Andrew Sullivan, not a huge Andrew Sullivan fan, but he made this observation. It was real, apparently. He used his eyeballs to observe it, and then he wrote it down. New York Magazine published it and tweeted it out this morning. That's how I have it. Just an FYI, Fox News cut away from the father of the fallen Muslim soldier. Of course they did. One of the most powerful parts of last night's presentations, and following hot on the heels of Reverend Barber's presentation as well, they really packed a good 1-2 punch. I'm sure you all saw it or saw clips of it by now. But yes, where are all the moderate Muslims people who have been forcing that question, dumb as it is, on their viewers for years, finally had the answer. It was right in front of them. And quick, cut away. Did they go to commercial? I'm not even sure. Don't show where are all the moderate Muslims. I don't know. Oh, here they are. Turn a channel, everybody. Don't look. Because if you do, well, then there's no basis for Donald Trump's candidacy, 1, and no reason for us to exist, 2. So don't look. The big, I guess the big hit of the night, really, I mean, in terms of really gut punch is what I mean, in terms of hit, was the father of a Muslim soldier, who, well, they were immigrants from the United Arab Emirates, and, well, you know the story. He has 3 sons, one of whom joined the military and was killed in Afghanistan. But telling the personal story, it was very difficult to watch, just in terms of, you could see that the parents, father and mother, both on the stage, were pretty close to losing it emotionally, pretty close to tears. It was it looked like it was physically difficult for them to get started with the speech. And Dad did all the talking. But maybe he was the only one composed enough to be able to do it. I don't know. But it looked very difficult for them, even though they were taking great pride in the opportunity to do it. And that brings us, I guess, to another part of our discussion of internal Democratic politics. Still more booing, chanting, not catcalling, but, heckling, etc. And I've been doing an awful lot of thinking about it, and it's tough because I like to recognize everybody's right to speak up, and I mean I recognize it in physical terms. Well, you speak, I can't beat you for speaking up. I understand that. I guess what was bugging me was, or what interested me really, was that I'm sure that people who were doing this stuff thought, well, 1, they thought they were doing the right thing and a good thing, and 2, they probably felt that their chants were misunderstood. But both under, well, you know what? The no more war chants. I'm not entirely certain when they started and when they ended. And I know for sure that they were piping up under the speeches, actually the members of the military or retired military who spoke, and I can understand that. I understand all of it, I think, or I like to think I understand all of it, but for instance, when the general spoke, that was a little out of place, kind of. I mean, that was some, gung-ho military stuff, but I understood the plan was, well, we still think we have to show a certain segment of America that that we've got gung-ho military, because that's what they equate with patriotism or with strength in the world. And even though those of us perhaps with more nuanced views understand that you can be strong and be patriotic without doing it that way, not everyone does. Different strokes, as they say. And for those who wanted to chant no more wars, the same applies, right? Different strokes for you, other things for other people, tiny American flags, the way that goes. So anyway, I mean, that was certainly a little bit more understandable, if not necessarily exactly appropriate under those speeches. But I don't think that they were not. I think they were also present alongside the presentations from Mr. Kaiser, if the pronunciation is correct, Khan, and that was maybe less than appropriate. I mean, it was certainly less than appropriate in both instances, and the people doing it would certainly defend it as well. You know, I don't compromise on my principles. I am anti-war. I want to be here to protest so that it's known that the entire Democratic Party, or all liberals, or all progressives, or however you want to describe the gathering there yesterday, aren't as hawkish as I perceive. This would be speaking in the Bernie supporter voice, or the chanting voice, because there could have been Hillary supporters doing that too, I guess, although I guess they would be less inclined to do so. But anyway, no more war. Fine sentiment. You know what? I agree. No more war. I hope that we don't have to have any more wars, and we'll do what we can to avoid them. But on the other hand, I'm also big into, okay, it's your turn to speak. I don't really like what you're doing necessarily, but I'm kind of into that as a concept. And there are extremes to which I can be pushed and then say, you know what, time for you to stop talking. Now, yes, that's true. But, and I also understand, certainly there are people who say, well, there's just no other opportunity for the kind of national attention and visibility that a convention affords you. And that also is true. And so the temptation to use it for these purposes is pretty enormous. I don't know whether it matters to you, even how effective it is, or whether you're getting your message across, or whether people hear you clearly. Slightly less troubling over a Marine general, if only because the Marine general is a Marine general, and he can say, to hell with these people, and probably has the mental wherewithal to simply block you out and shout over you. I'm sure that mental strength exists in Mr. Khan as well, but I didn't want to test it. I'm sure that chanting no more war made a great deal of sense to somebody. Well, if there hadn't been war, then your son would still be alive. Yeah, well, there was a war. And the reality is that this guy is dealing with the loss of his son because of it. And I understand that you want to, I don't compromise on my principles. But, I mean, honestly, the idea of I'm going to shout you down for democracy, it doesn't work for me. I understand the impulse. I disagree with the execution. I'm just one of those people that sometimes thinks, sometimes there's places and times for things, and you let somebody else talk for once and see what they have to say, and then you can say, I would prefer that we not glorify war. Okay, that's a fine statement to make when it's your turn to make this statement. But I'm not going to get my turn because I'm being marginalized. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a microphone, and you ask for a chance to speak, and they said, we have somebody else that's more important to us that we're going to give a chance to speak to, and your opportunity to speak is a different one. You got a different role at this convention, and I don't know why people don't accept that. I guess the other thing that I'll throw out there, and Armando is here to help us out with his review thing. I saw this, you retweeted this with the comment, eye roll, basically. I mean, in terms of cherry picking or nut picking, your quotes from Sanders supporters on the floor, there was the New York Times reporter, was it, that found the person who was willing to go on the record to say that they were stopped from interrupting more speeches last night by what they termed microaggressions. And that they felt marginalized, and that many of them left in tears. And I'm sad when people leave in tears. But I will put it this way. I'm going to take my cue a little bit from President Obama's speech yesterday, plus all that we've been talking about all along. And I say, good. Not because, haha, you got hurt or you lost or anything like that, but makes you tough. Puts hair on your chest. You know what? That's what this game actually is. It isn't Oh, I'm very kind about it. I say we give everybody their turn and we wait patiently and everybody makes their speeches and then we decide what to do. But the rest of the world isn't really like that. And if you've come to play the politics game, there will be microaggressions. Now you're used to it, and next time you'll come back prepared, if you decide to come back at all, tougher and harder. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really even a huge believer in that. But next convention, you'll have a better idea of what this game is actually about and play it better. That's why I always insist that everybody learn the rules, learn procedure. It will be used at first to crack you over the head, beat you up, push you out, make sure you don't win. Learn it, and you can push. It doesn't mean you'll win the next time, but it increases the odds. And if you can learn to, like, totally deal with microaggressions, man. I know that's so stereotypical, huge disservice to many of the many much more assertive Bernie Sanders
Wait a
supporters.
second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
No, that's a microaggression. I reject your microaggression. All right.
Somebody was speaking.
Yes.
Indeed, the nominee of our party.
Yeah, or even a guest. By the way, interrupting them is microaggression. But okay. Yes.
I mean, it isn't anything. What it is weird.
Well, that too.
Because the reality is you weren't there to...
Right.
We made this point the other day. They weren't there to represent themselves. They were delegates chosen to represent Bernie Sanders, not themselves. Bernie Sanders.
Yes, that's true. Well,
they microaggressed him, is what they did. He told them not to do it, and they did it anyway. And the only reason they were there is because he chose them. Let me tell you who needs to learn the rules.
Yes.
Bernie Sanders. If he ever has a situation where he has delegates again, pick better delegates.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do, but you should try. And I mean, in some cases, the delegates. I think in the California delegation where they were most vocal, I think that actually, I think there the campaign and supporters sort of are more cooperative, and it's in terms of picking the delegates. It's not just sort of, well, here you go, here's your delegates. So he could have weeded it out better there, but maybe he was actually looking for people who would do this stuff. But there's a lot of internal contradiction in all this, and okay, embrace it, whatever. But if you hate microaggression, don't do any.
Microaggression. I mean, I still can't get over that. You're trying to disrupt the convention. They push back against your attempted disruptions, and that's microaggression?
Microaggression is when the other guy stops you.
Apparently. I mean, that's the new rule.
And it's democracy when you microaggress. Are you microaggressive against them? But you could certainly define it the same way. But mine's patriotic and awesome. You know, we've seen this problem before.
Exactly.
The Republicans, in the meantime, are complaining bitterly. Hey, they're taking all our stuff, being proud of America. This is stealing. They're plagiarizing us, and it's like
David,
that's the same issue.
What they're complaining about is we didn't give Jill Stein a speaking
no,
prime time.
I mean, I'm talking about Republicans' complaint that Democrats are stealing all our patriotism.
Yeah,
we're the patriots.
Their patriotism.
Yeah, well, that's the same sort of thinking, and is what I'm saying is that they think that they're the only legitimate patriots, and that everybody else's patriotism is either fake or, in fact, communism. And similarly, everybody else's their pushback is honesty and speaking truth to power. Your pushback is microaggression.
Let me tell you about microaggression.
Good, please read me a definition. I think I get what they mean. But
I decided to go down to Philly to watch a historic moment, the first woman nominated as a major party candidate.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I got there well in time, 5 o'clock, and I was microaggressed because there was no seats there except behind the stage where you couldn't see anything. That is microaggression. That's macroaggression.
That's, yes.
I was so inconvenienced, I cannot tell you. It left me in tears.
I'm sorry. Have a tissue.
And then I dried my tears. I got back in my car. I literally did this and drove back to New York to watch the convention.
Oh. All right. Well, you had a better
view.
You
don't hear me crying except here on Kagro in the morning.
Yes, exclusive. You're
an exclusive wine.
I understand it.
I understand you're taking this seriously, but come on.
Well, that was the worst quote.
What did you think people were going to do? Sit quietly while you protested?
Yes. I don't know what they thought. I think that they thought that. And, I mean, maybe they thought that because, I mean, there's this kernel of truth, as usual, at the heart of some of this stuff. But I'm surprised that it isn't seen all that often. I thought you would, I thought you would sit quietly and listen to our critiques or answer our protest or something. The reason that they think that this sort of protest is useful or functional is that they imagine, and I think that they're right, that there's a twinge of guilt occasionally that comes from Democrats recognizing, in an ideal world, perhaps in some cases, that position there is where we ought to be, but I think circumstances dictate otherwise at the moment. The other party, the other nominee, never feels that twinge of guilt. He's not at all disturbed by the fact that people are marginalized. He revels in marginalizing people. And that's not meant to make you think that one party is necessarily better or the lesser of two evils. But to the extent that you think your protest works at all, it only works in one party, and it only works in that party because, yes, deep down people say, I really would like to be able to satisfy that critic, but I can't at the moment, and I'm going to do the best I can. And then when the answer is, who cares, your best sucks, F you, I'd rather Jill Stein, she'll fix, or whatever, then at some point people say, you know what, I need to roll on, I need to move forward here. Just like we realized yesterday that President Obama was saying part of the job is to take the knocks and to say, yeah, I'm going to have critics. Some of them are going to even be from my own party, but I need to roll on. I need to make sure the ship is steady here. We're going to be okay. There's going to be room for protest. If I upset this ship, you may not live in a country where you're able to make this protest and remind me that ideally, eventually, one day, in Valhalla, I want to be where you are. But now I can't be, but I feel bad. The other guys don't feel bad. They'll just arrest you and execute you.
But David, what is this even connected to? I mean, is it just a generalized primal scream? Let me read from the speech that they wanted to interrupt.
No, the speech doesn't matter, but go ahead.
Well, it doesn't.
Not to them.
That's sort of the whole point. Then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point to any of this.
I think I'm with you.
Hillary Clinton said, I believe America thrives when the middle class thrives. I believe that our economy isn't working the way it should because our democracy isn't working the way it should.
Oh, my God. Okay.
That's why we need to appoint Supreme Court justices who will get money out of politics and expand voting rights, not restrict them. And we'll pass a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United if we need to. I believe American corporations that have gotten so much from our country should be just as patriotic in return. Many of them are, but too many aren't. It's wrong to take tax breaks with one hand and give out pink slips with the other. I believe Wall Street can never, ever be allowed to wreck Main Street again. I believe in science. I believe that climate change is real and that we can save our planet while creating millions of good-paying, clean energy jobs. I believe that when we have millions of hardworking immigrants contributing to our economy, it would be self-defeating and inhumane to kick them out.
Everything that guy just said right there is bullcrap. You can see how.
No, I can't see.
Well,
tell me.
I mean, if you want it like line by line comment, I'm sure if you gave them the opportunity to annotate the speech, it would go, I believe in democracy. Pause, and they would say, well, then how come at the Nevada caucus or state convention, no, and you didn't. Yeah, right, that kind of stuff. And how come it says in the WikiLeaks thing that you cheated. This is their interpretation of things. And it's like, well, the answers to all these things are nuanced, and it's not black and white, and you can't just simply say, because can I annotate your annotation? There's no evidence that what you call cheating, fraud, she stole the election, it doesn't actually pan out to that. But there's no opportunity for me to heckle your heckling. So, why are you microaggressing me, man? I want to add nuance to your nuance.
See, I'm not going to humor that argument.
You can't, because there's no, you do that, and then there's no convention. You go around and around, and everybody's like, okay, man, I have the speaking stick now, and it's not a convention. And America goes, holy crap, they're all crazy hippies. And, they're wrong, but that's what they end up looking like. It's just not a forum for that. And I understand that they have no other forum, but then it gets back to the ultimate problem of, well, go create one. Why are you so disempowered all the time? Nobody ever listens to me. Well, because when you get together, you make sparkle fingers and snap, and you sit cross-legged, outside and hold your fist up and put tape over your mouth. Why doesn't anybody ever listen to you? Because you have tape over your mouth. You're silent protesting. But I had a sign. It didn't make any damn sense.
A sign, they're silencing me.
Yeah.
By doing better and louder chants than I wanted to do.
It's just, you haven't found an organization that works for you. You haven't found a structure that works for you. You haven't found a message that works for you. But it's pure. It's true. You didn't compromise your message. It's just, look, you either win people over or you don't. And you can change your message, you can change your approach, but if you're going to say, no way, man, I'm pure, then you're going to have what you're going to have. And you're going to lose, and you want to lose nobly, that's cool, but you don't want to lose. So you yell.
Okay, lose nobly, but do it outside.
Yeah, we're entitled, we were elected. Okay, yeah, I understand.
Well,
that's true.
That's actually, it gets back to my central point. They weren't elected. They were selected. They weren't on any ballot. Bernie
Some
Sanders
states really do it
was
that
on
way.
the ballot.
Yeah.
Not them. Bernie Sanders. If they want to run for president, they can go do it. But they were elected as Bernie Sanders. That's my whole point is the beginning, the fundamental premise is wrong. You weren't elected. You were not elected.
I come down there, and by way of analysis of what I think is going on in their heads, you say, well, Bernie Sanders said, don't do it. And then they say, well, he's not the king, man. Besides which, you know how these things work. This is a wink to us. Oh, don't do it, wink, wink. Really do it. Oh, I see.
You know what? I kind of believe that. I think that's a better point. Frankly, Bernie was much too soft in what he said. And I'll go further. Bernie looked miserable yesterday. I thought it was inappropriate.
But
I'm not a big fan of Bernie Sanders today, to be honest with you. But that's a different story.
Yeah, well, what can you do? He didn't look that happy, and
it's over.
I'm not
going to think about him again. We got 100 days to beat Trump. We don't have time.
And he'll do it too, and he'll do his part. It was kind of funny, and I did see everybody on Twitter saying, "Would it kill you to smile?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute! Twitter told me you're not supposed to tell people to smile."
Exactly.
Hey, now.
Which was kind of funny, but
women.
Maybe you don't look miserable either.
That's what he looks like, unless a bird lands on his podium.
I suppose. Yeah, that's true. You know what? That's a very fair point. That's just what he looks like. He might have been fine. He might not have been
Hillary
miserable at all.
wears pantsuits, and we scream, "How dare you, criticize her over that?" Or she does. This is the way she is, and you're criticizing. Well, that's what he looks like. That is. He smiles occasionally.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I thought it was kind of ironic. And say what you want about Hillary Clinton. She runs a tight ship. They had pre-programmed counter chants, right?
Yes.
And that's smart.
It is, because when you have a large group of people, you don't know what they're going to do. And to me, it's pretty natural. Well, duh. Everybody actually already knows the USA chant, and you really don't even have to have that many more. But between USA and Hillary, they'll do fine. But you know what? With thousands of people, somebody else will say, well, the best idea is probably for me to punch them. No,
exactly.
That's not the best idea.
So that's sort of the point. And yeah, it interrupted the speakers a little bit, but listen, this is an infomercial. Mm-hmm. Conventions are 4-day infomercials where you get to tell your story exactly as you want, and they hand you the TV cameras for 4 days. They got their 4 days, we got ours.
That is the modern version of them, yes. And some people will say, well, that's not how it ought to be. Well, okay. I mean, they ought not to make...
They shouldn't exist. I mean, there's no point to a convention. We know who the nominees are, so, I mean, what do you mean? Well, they should exist for what, then?
I don't know. That they should be open forums for the expressions of ideas.
Great. All right. So we'll do you do your open forum for expression of ideas. We'll do our candidate show over here and see how many people go and cover you.
That's essentially not only who will cover, but who will watch. And I guess, well, the system is rigged because the networks are agreeing to cover because of corrupt corporate deals. But, who covered?
Oh, God,
I don't know what to tell you, right? I mean,
are we having a serious conversation? I guess you're right. We're not, because we're taking this seriously. Again, you're going to a party's convention.
Yeah.
You are selected as a delegate.
Yes.
For one of the candidates. You are selected by the candidate. You are not elected to do anything. You're not there to protest. You're there to do your job as a delegate. If you don't want to do it, then somebody else should do it. But again, this comes down to Bernie Sanders. He did a bad job, particularly in California with his delegate selection. There's just no two ways about it. And frankly, it goes to his management skills. He doesn't have them. He would not have been a good president. I think it's pretty clear. He can waggle his finger all he wants, but it's not at all clear that he had the skills to be a president. But that's water under the bridge. Water under the bridge. I am going to ask you this. How did you like General John Allen's speech?
Truthfully, I did not love that.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was totally out of place, but I understood what they were doing.
Oh, yeah, I know why they did it. But it was hilarious. He just shouted at us. I mean, I felt like he was a drill sergeant.
And that was the idea. He's a Marine general.
Oh, my God.
And
it was good theater. And
there were people who loved it.
People loved it. It was a good show. So I do think for that, but it was absolutely funny. It's like
yes, and that
somebody
was the way
tweeted
to take
why is this man shouting at me? What did I do?
Right. It was weird and out of place, and I'm glad it only lasted as long as it did. I wish it was shorter.
It should have been shorter.
And
it should have been just 8 minutes or so. I think they did like 15.
I knew we were in trouble the minute. Like, I noticed all the people marching out with him, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then with the drums,
oh, God.
I was like, wow, stagecraft fail on that one. I don't know what else they would do, but it was sort of like, if they're not in uniform, and they can't be.
They cannot be. Yes, just everybody should know they can't wear their uniform in political events.
Then the drum, like, I don't know. And what was that? All the officers, retired officers?
These were a large group of obviously diverse people from the military who
exactly what
were supporting Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. So I wasn't clear.
By
exactly.
the way, General Allen was he wasn't just some general. He was a theater commander.
Yeah, well, 4-star, they don't make a lot of.
Yes. That in real world, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Sure. They don't have a lot. I mean, those are top brass. Those are the guys that do it all.
Yep.
There's generals and there's generals.
He's Petraeus level.
Yeah.
General.
Right. 4 stars. It rarely goes higher, and
yeah,
that doesn't in
peacetime.
I think
when the JCS gets the 5th star, I don't know if that's still the way it's done.
I don't even know if they do that anymore. I think you have to be actual wartime.
Oh, is that right?
Commander.
I thought Colin Powell was a 5-star, but I could be, who knows?
What do I know? I thought that was a Honduran flag.
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure, but I mean, substantively, it is a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know if there has been one since. I think Omar Bradley was the last living 5-star.
Right. Can I give you one other observation? I mean, beyond, we have also others, but just a highlight.
I'm just going to give all the answers.
I don't want to mangle his name. I know his last name was Khan.
Yeah.
The parents who
they said Kaiser when they introduced him.
Kaiser Soze.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to mangle it because it was. In many ways, it was the speech of the convention, and for a number of reasons. Obviously, it was very moving and very meaningful. It was a man who clearly loved the United States. I mean, red, white, and blue. I mean, he's all in on that, and he gave a fantastic speech. But I also think people don't think about this aspect of it, and see if you see it my way or not. The Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, we, on the night of our presidential nominee's speech, we put on a Muslim family arguing for the patriotism of American Muslims on national TV. Could you imagine that happening in any other? I mean, yeah, you might have it at 3 PM, one of those things they'd put you on. But in a primetime spot, frankly, after Hillary's speech, the most noted speech of the night.
Yeah, to give the speech, I believe at one point during the Republican convention, they actually had a Muslim cleric of one type or another. I'm not certain what title he would take for himself. Gave a benediction at some point, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, look what they're doing!" And but it wasn't for giving a speech, but even that was, I thought, amazing.
Well, that's good, and I'm glad to hear that. I did not know that, but that seems. But that's.
I'd give him credit for that. I mean, I think then they threw him out of the country.
But that's fairly normal. I mean, in the sense that you have all the denominations come out and give.
You do a thing. Look,
benedictions.
We're tolerant. We allowed him to live.
This man, this man was put on. I think it was around 8:30 or so.
Yeah, maybe even later. Yeah,
a little later even. And it was a featured speech, and it was, as I said, to me, probably it will be the speech that is most remembered, other than the nominee's speech of the night. And you couldn't you? Don't you think there was somebody in the room saying, "Hey, are we sure we want to do this?"
I don't even know whether. I mean, given what the guy did, if we
progress enough that conversation doesn't happen, that would be great.
I mean, unless it was, somehow Dick Morris snuck in or something. I'm sure that maybe somebody said, just by way of pushback, will be attacked. And everybody said, let that, I mean, I know what this guy's going to say and what this person is about. Let that pushback come. I doubt it was more than a minute. But I hope so. I hope. You never know. I mean, like I said, Dick Morris. The other Clinton person valued Dick Morris at one point. So you never know what's going to happen. And the one we're talking about now liked Mark Schoen or what's his name? Is it Mark Schoen? I can't remember. Think of all the people.
Oh, the Penn and Schoen people. Doug Schoen.
Yeah, Doug Schoen and Mark Penn. Yeah. The people who have advised Hillary in the past, I hope, have also been a rather amazing collection of chowderheads.
Yeah, I know, and I think you're answering my question that so your mom, you live in 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. I mean, if it was matter of fact and no one batted an eye from our side, look,
I hope so.
That guy would never have been in a Republican convention. Suppose that they just,
despite their continued search for moderate Muslims, when they find them, they say, "Oh God, well, don't let anybody know they're real."
Well, they did find what's his name? Remember the guy? Not Curveball, but the guy we always thought was Curveball. From Iraq.
Ahmed Chalabi.
Yeah, Chalabi. Ahmed Chalabi. Judy Miller's good friend.
Yeah,
that was the moderate Muslim they might have had.
I see. Yes,
But that's, I'm glad that you see my perception is mistaken, that this was brave. If it wasn't brave, so much the better.
Well, I'm glad they did it. It was certainly somebody, I'm sure, said there will be elements of America that don't understand this, and my hope is that they all said, well, who cares? Good, let's do it.
And I
Oops, I've lost you, or your audio anyway. You're connected, but it doesn't even say you're on hold. Okay, well, we'll fill in here, and then we'll find out exactly. You're probably saying all the best stuff right now, too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I got knocked out there for a second on the hold.
All right.
The pocket constitution, because that's such a Democratic prop. I mean, a Republican prop
yes,
for so many years.
Right.
I love the boomerang on that one.
Yeah, and that's funny, too, because the reactions that I saw Republicans were, of course, again, this is stealing more of our stuff, but then I also saw a lot of Democrats saying, oh, how awesome that guy, how badass, he produced a pocket constitution, and I was like, but they've been doing that for 100 years on the other side, and it's been so dumb,
Listen, I love the speech, but it remains dumb. You can't read the Constitution and know what it means. That's just not how it's done. I mean, maybe this is the lawyer in me.
Yeah,
but if you don't know what's in Marbury versus Madison, if you don't know what's in Brown versus Board of Education, if you don't know what's in Baker v. Carr, if you don't know what's in Korematsu, you don't know the story of our Constitution. But you know what? Screw it. I'm glad we did it to them.
Sure. I thought it worked. It was fun to see it turned around, certainly. And there are some things. I mean, I think basically what he was talking about in terms of, well, we're going to exclude an entire religion from our country. That's something is so completely out of bounds that you really can just about wave the Constitution at it and say, come on. But, then of course when they say, all right, here you are before the Supreme Court. You can't at that point say, well, here, look at that, and have them say, you're right. I hate to be
that guy, but there is an argument that excluding by basis of religion for immigration purposes might be constitutional.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You don't have a constitutional right to enter the country, and if you're not in the country, you're not a citizen, you're not a person of the United States. I'm not sure that the Equal Protection Clause would apply to that decision.
That may be, although, I don't know. I think that, I don't know. I'm not certain about that particular clause.
No, it's worth a look, and I think that there's actually would be laws that prohibit using religion as a basis for immigration.
That may be.
That's probably in the immigration laws.
On the other hand, I'm thinking of things like there are quite a number of cases where it's been argued and held that certain constitutional protections.
Yes, it goes with the flag. Absolutely, there's that argument. And I don't know if again, man, we're going to get into these constitutional weeds, but you might remember the Rasul and Hamdi cases, and the Hamdan case, the mid-aughts, which were about the applicability of the Constitution to Guantanamo.
Yes.
And that was a big legal issue. And I don't know if you remember whether the lease was enough to say that the Constitution comes with the flag. There's a whole development of constitutional law from insular cases and onward on that issue.
Yes.
But
that means you can't pull it out of your pocket and say, unless you pull, you could have a huge pocket. I have here in my briefcase.
I have here the U.S. reports.
Right. But I like, it's a stagecraft bit. It worked fine. They've been doing it for 100 years on the other side. I'm glad he did it. And, what better to have in your pocket? And it is a pretty basic case, and a pretty basic case for, Americanism in general.
No, you can just quote the 14th Amendment and say, well, how is what you're saying comport with it? And, you have to come up with some legal technicalities. Well, it doesn't apply. To try to get around it.
Right. I kick you out of the country and then nail your feet to the ground and then say no to you.
I'll give you one where the Constitution does apply clearly. Rudy Giuliani's idea to put leg monitors on Muslims.
Yeah, I have to, it's terrible, but I have to laugh at it because it's that.
I mean, who thinks that way?
Only him.
Right. I mean, it was early in the campaign, but I'm pretty sure
they should have put a leg monitor on him. Then he wouldn't
Trump
have been
cited
taking FDR,
the internment camps as the support for his ban arguments and things like that. So it's out there, and it's abhorrent. And I think people see it as abhorrent, and even he half does it. He just says, "Well, no, I say territories now, not Muslims." Whatever that's supposed to mean.
I don't know. Well, ugh. It's,
it is ugh.
It was,
but yeah. But listen, 4 days, tremendous convention. I thought. I mean, they had every weapon to use. Michelle
the finest
Obama,
weapons. That's the general.
Right, weapons. Stop the weapons. No more wars.
Yeah, well, they were right there. I mean, that's where I understood, at least, if not the chant of no more wars, it probably should have been no more time. Please leave stage. Please leave stage.
Please leave stage. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me.
I mean, we're going to have the finest weapons, and we're going to tear their guts out, and we're going to stop them, and we're going to kick them in the... Yeah. Okay.
Our enemies will be pulverized.
They will fear us.
He did. He said that's actually a direct quote.
That was a little
Our enemies
Trumpy.
will fear us.
Dun, dun, dun. I should have done that to him. Played the music. I should have done sound effects for the show.
I know. You really should. Bum, bum. That was a perfect bum, bum, bum. That certainly caught our attention.
Yes. But thank you for your service. I'm really sorry, but that's and you have to do that, and I mean, and the other speech there was a Medal of Honor winner who, as I understand, is a Republican. I mean, okay,
is that right?
But he was there to say, this is nonsense. We can't vote for this other guy.
Yeah, Trump is crazy.
And there too, again, okay, I understand the point, which doesn't really come through from No More War, but the point being, let's not necessarily glorify military activity above all, but then again, it's like, well, he tackled a suicide bomber and the vest detonated and it blew his leg off. Could you give him a minute? Quiet? For a second?
Yes.
For him to say, and ordinarily I wouldn't be here, and if the Republicans had nominated someone even close to what passes for sane normally, I'd be there. And they'd be loving it because I'm a Medal of Honor winner. But instead, I said, this is nuts. My country demands, and I take that seriously. By the way, many of you think that's really goofy and hokey. My country, my sense of patriotism demands that. It's all hokey and goofy until your nominee says it. But I actually felt that way, and I didn't go through this thought process, but basically I said, I would maybe die or have my leg blown off because of the way I feel about my country, and I'm here to tell you that the other guy is too crazy. He's too dangerous for our country, and I would feel like I had my leg blown off for nothing if they elected him. But could you guys just for a minute let me just say that? Why are you yelling at me? What? Come on. And then, right, you know what? Let me tell you about microaggressions, because I got my leg blown off by a very big microaggression. It was a bomb. That's actually the biggest kind of aggression there is. And I just wanted to turn to say my thing. But I can't, because you've got 3 words to yell over and over again. And isn't it time for you to be farting? What's wrong with you guys? So, I don't know. I felt...
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, but there's something just happened that I think you should hear.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's latest tweet.
Okay.
1 minute ago. General John Allen, who I've never met, but spoke against me last night, failed badly in his fight against ISIS. His record equals bad.
Yeah. It does? It doesn't. John
You think
Allen.
Trump knows?
No.
Trump has no clue.
Well, that was a very good point of Hillary's speech, one of the better bits of it, reminding everybody that he said he knows better than the generals. And I mean, just looking at him, thinking the idea, can you imagine him walking into the Joint Chiefs and saying, listen, you idiots, here's how it's going to be. Or he does his Al Capone team speech with a bat walking behind the Joint Chiefs.
Now listen, is it possible John Allen did a bad job? I have no idea. I literally have no idea. But I know Donald Trump has no idea.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know what he thinks of if he didn't nuke them, he did a bad job, but
I think in conventional military terms, remember, what we're doing on ISIS at any rate is basically air power. And, militarily, in terms of territory and everything, I mean, ISIS is basically getting rolled up. Certainly in Iraq, they're getting rolled up. They lost Fallujah the other day. And basically all their strongholds in Iraq are basically falling one after the other. I know they're still active in Syria. So, I mean, in the conventional military terms, what a military can do, I think we're doing it. These attacks, that's just terrorism. I mean, the military can't stop that. That was always a point we made during the aughts, during the Bush years. They said you cannot, bombing Iraq, overthrowing Saddam Hussein does nothing to fight terrorism. It did the opposite, in fact. We have ISIS because
even Donald Trump
thought the military could do that.
Donald Trump believes that.
Well, Donald Trump, who knows what he believes? What's his secret plan to defeat ISIS?
Nuke them, I guess. If
you can't just where they're if they're Paris or Brussels, are you going to nuke Paris and Brussels
if necessary? I don't know what he's going to say. No, but we'll send Delta Force and Chuck Norris to root them out and use smart bombs that kill only that guy. Listen, our bombs need to be smarter if they don't work that way. I've seen it on television. You can go in a window.
Yeah, but you know what? We're circling back to just the issue of this election.
Believe me, yes.
The believe me guy is an ignorant, unstable, deranged buffoon.
Yes.
And he's a major party nominee. This is disgraceful.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why Republican Medal of Honor winners are speaking at the Democratic Convention saying, it's too dangerous. Boo!
Now, you know what's funny about it? I know it goes against what a lot of the left, the real left, not me. I'm a centrist. I mean, that's the weird thing. You're probably more left than me, but not too much more. And there's just a lack of common sense of understanding how you can persuade who you need to persuade in this country to win the argument and have your policies put in. You can't just be booing Medal of Honor winners. Listen, the guy didn't decide who goes to war. Unless you're saying service in the military itself is out of bounds.
There are such people.
Well, how can you boo a Medal of Honor winner? As you said, a guy who grabbed a suicide bomber and saved hundreds of people.
I don't know. I could manage.
Apparently, you can manage it. And this is a long thing. Oh, we can't. And I guess, yes, we can't. Whatever the idea is, idolize or put on a pedestal the military. They're as prone to mistakes as anybody. This is all true. But also, you don't go out of your way and say, well, you're illegitimate just because you're in the military. That can't be our position either, can it?
I doubt that. No. It can't be, obviously. But and I don't even know that the protesters would necessarily say, I'm sure they wouldn't, if you pressed them on it, say, yeah, that's what I meant. But, I mean, well, if you just boo or chant, that's what's going to come across. Well, no, I actually have a more nuanced position. Well, you would probably have to speak at length to express that position you could wait for an opportunity to do that. Or you could be misinterpreted on national television and make everybody say, we're better off shutting you up. Which one do you want to do? I don't know. How about a fart? Did that come off, by the way?
I fart in your general direction.
Right. I wonder, I'm curious about, just to find out whether that was ever supposed to actually happen or whether it was supposedly a joke all the time, but wouldn't that be funny if you were the one that didn't get the "it's just a joke" memo? And you're like, why am I the only one here farting? That would really be the best outcome for all that. Obviously, that was never going to work.
The whole time?
I overdid it. Yeah, you got to be careful about how you load up for that, because you might not even be able to stay on the floor. Well, that likely did not work. And certainly there wasn't even any mention of it, except for as a joke yesterday. Oh, my Tim Kaine jokes. That Tim Kaine.
Oh, those were terrific. I
like the genre. Somebody else kind of came up with it, like the idea of, Tim Kaine as dad jokes and just the gosh darn it nice guy kind of thing, which is a great antidote to Trump, by the way. But we lost our monitor there. Maybe we'll get him back on the air. But yeah, I love the genre. Whoever came up with that, of the idea of, Tim Kaine would do all these nice things for you. As I put it last night, if your balloon popped, Tim Kaine will get you another one. But I saw such varied things, as I can't even recall who was tweeting them all. There were so many of them. Tim Kaine will take the first waffles, which we all know are terrible, but he doesn't mind. That kind of stuff. Anyway, it was a wild night, to be sure. The balloon drop worked, so that's good. There have been problems in the past. And those big, giant, star-spangled balloons that Bill Clinton was so conscientiously preserving one for his grandchildren, I thought that was nice. Bill liked the balloons.
The balloons.
I don't know whether I'm not going to put him on the couch about that one, but okay. They are trying to make sure that stuff works. They've had years where the balloons didn't fall.
Yeah, I get.
But yeah.
I mean, it was fun. Listen,
yeah.
It's actually a funny thing.
People love the balloons. You can't not do it. And of course, there was the criticism. Well, they're all going to end up in the ocean as garbage and kill sea turtles. And that was mostly Republicans saying that. I actually would not doubt that there are a few people assigned to, very conscientiously deflating and sweeping up all the trash from things precisely for those
absolutely.
reasons.
Or they're recycled or whatever they do.
Right.
Somebody on some committee
We're giving
makes
balloons
sure
to the
that's
homeless.
happening.
There you go. I don't know what they're doing with it, but okay. So, or I wouldn't even doubt that they, ordered special biodegradable balloons.
Yeah, they did.
They love that stuff.
They love that stuff. There's somebody somewhere, and hey, listen, more credit to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing.
I like it,
but
it's nice.
I'm sure the balloons were made in the USA, are biodegradable, all those things.
Yeah. Yes.
Sometimes overdue. They are.
Yeah, probably. And there's probably a press release about it somewhere. So we'll check it out. It doesn't really get to the heart of things, but by the way, yes, the 5-star rank.
I knew it was coming. I was right.
Yes, the 5-star rank, as it turns out, no, there has not been a 5-star since Omar Bradley. I just wanted to give you the idea of 4 stars. Well, if he's really such a hotshot, why didn't he make 5 stars? I'll give you a list of the 5-star Americans because it's readable on the air. Fleet Admiral William Leahy. And by the way, when did he get it? 1944. George Marshall, 44. Ernest King, Fleet Admiral Ernest. I'm not as familiar with our fleet admirals as our generals. They don't get the respect. 44. Also, this is all, by the way, December 1944. Okay, so they fought most of the war at the 4-star rank. So maybe you know a couple of these guys. Leahy, Marshall, King, Douglas MacArthur, December 44. Fleet Admiral Nimitz, you know that name, 44. Yes, Dwight Eisenhower.
Great admiral, really.
December 44. General of the Army and Air Force, Henry Arnold, December 44. And he became a 5-star of the Air Force in 49. Fleet Admiral William Halsey Jr., 1945. General of the Army Omar Bradley, 1950. Okay, they made him wait till 5 years after the war. So he's the last one. There is one other name on the list, in case you're wondering if that doesn't really do it for you in terms of how hard, or how rare is it to get that fifth thing. General of the Army George Washington. That was the one before, until the 15th of December, 1944, when it went to Fleet Admiral Leahy. The last one was George Washington. So it's tough. I'm just going to put that out there. Not a lot of, and I don't even know whether they really did a 5-star thing for him per se, but I guess he was the last person to hold the kind of rank of General of the Army. So, you're not going to make it. If you were thinking of getting the 5 stars, if you're 4 and you're like, I want that 5th, not likely.
Not likely. No, it's almost never happens. By the way, Donald Trump has gotten control of his Twitter again this morning, and he's back with a vengeance.
All right. I knew he would
Tweet storm against Michael Bloomberg.
Well, sure, good. That'll be fun.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'm sure Bloomberg wouldn't mind having a second round with him. I mean, and you know what the way Trump says it, because Bloomberg, you can't say Bloomberg's a failure or any of those things, right?
Right.
Or not rich. So what Trump says is that Bloomberg knows nothing about him. Because they only live in the same city, right?
Yeah. He knows nothing. They never cross paths.
Never cross paths. He's crazy. He may not remember, but he's running against Hillary Clinton. And he did some anti-Hillary stuff. But the Michael Bloomberg thing, and we knew it that night. Mm-hmm. No, you didn't see it, though. You still haven't seen it.
No. But I figured it would.
You knew it that night that was the one that was going to stick in his craw. Yesterday, he said there was a little guy that he would have punched, but he controlled himself. But, yeah, well, the control left today. Oh, he's all little Mike.
Good, all right. Yeah, I think
if you don't know, Mike Bloomberg is rather short. He's like 5'6". I
don't hang out
at best. I mean, he's a relatively short man. So you knew that was coming. Little Mike.
Okay. Good.
So he's attacked. So this morning he's attacked General John Allen and Michael Bloomberg.
Yes.
And, he ran some standard issue anti-Hillary stuff. But he's back with a vengeance. Last night they had these pre-programmed tweets that were written by Stephen Miller, and it was boring. And I'm sure Trump said, this is boring. I'm taking over again.
Yeah, the ones that are sort of conventional sounding. I forget what he tweeted, but he did say something last night that I was like, really? He said that? And that's just so
use
dumb.
4-syllable words and things like that. So that's not Trump.
Oh, yeah, that was the one that I tweeted out. I was like, he's like Dennis Miller, but funny. Everybody gets stuck by that one.
That's good. Oh, man.
But yeah,
he's going off today.
Good.
He clearly was bothered a lot.
You are joined in that by Jesse Burney, who says Donald Trump is having a literal breakdown on Twitter right now.
He is.
Describes it.
And what's funny is I've got to now go back to the speech. Remember her line, now we can really use it. But you can't have a person who can be baited by tweets.
Yeah. ISIS could get Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm. ISIS could go on Twitter and just get him to go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, all they have to, I mean, the other thing I tweeted the other night, he's like the guy you could set him off. All ISIS has to do is tweet to him, what if somebody comes up with 6-minute abs? Oh no, oh my God, don't tell Trump that. He goes crazy. You're just going to be triggered with anything. I guess you have to know that line. But okay. The point is, he's thin-skinned. That orange rind he's got is paper thin.
Imagine if Hillary Clinton was as thin-skinned as he is and used Twitter like he does, and she'd be like railing about the losers in the media and all these things.
Well, she would have quit
insane.
a million years ago. On another note, not at all, well, not necessarily directly related to the convention, but I just wanted to throw this one out there. I thought you would think this was interesting. some criticism for WikiLeaks over their indiscriminate file dumps over the last few days from Edward Snowden. So people who aren't Snowden fans might, in fact, be interested in this. He basically tweeted last night, I understand the motivation here, and it's true. Information really should be democratized, whatever that's supposed to mean. Information wants to be free, man. But a little, even moderate curation would have gone a long way towards making the point a lot better. And so now WikiLeaks is now at war with Snowden. So that ought to work out pretty good. The Hill.
Yeah, that's something. So good for Snowden.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Snowden was a serious person with a serious issue. WikiLeaks is a scam.
It's certainly starting to look that way, even for people who admired what they did. And in early days, there were some things that WikiLeaks was doing that probably should have made people, and did make people, sit up and take notice and say, maybe we ought to be supportive of this. And then, like most things, they eventually, lost their minds. And so you cut them loose, dump them at that point, and say, I'm sorry I ever supported them. I never got as far as supporting them, but I was always, in the early days, again, said, okay, I see the value of some of the information that they want to see released. And Snowden also, okay, I see the value of some of the information he wants to see. Sometimes I think he's going overboard in what he chooses. Sometimes I think he's going overboard in his statements about it. I wouldn't want to be the guy, who, morally had to defend the idea necessarily of running to Russia. But on the other hand, some of this had to be done, and it couldn't have been done. There's, just to wrap that up, I don't think we're going to spend time on it. You could not have found a way within the system to stay here and publicize what needed to be publicized out of that and gotten the job done. You would have been, you'd be in jail. You'd be clammed up. You'd be Manning. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I understand Snowden's actions on every level. Whether I agree with them or not, I felt like he tried to do it as responsibly as he could. Whether I agree with the action or not, he didn't gratuitously release information. WikiLeaks threw out people's social security numbers.
Yeah.
And credit card info.
Yeah, and worse in Turkey, right, as I understand it. And you really have to kind of know what was going on and be following closely in Turkey. And I'm not, but others are. And basically they just, I don't know what they thought they were doing there, but they basically just they doxed every woman in Turkey somehow.
Jesus. I did not know that story.
Yeah.
You got to have some care. You've got to do this right.
I don't know what else what else are you spending your time on in the basement of the Embassy of Ecuador? You could just check your documents. Was there an immediate need for information on every woman in Turkey? Or some of the women in Turkey even? I don't know. I'm not sure what they were doing with that one. And I don't care, because they also proved themselves extraordinarily unprincipled here. Releasing the voicemails in particular, I think somebody said, here's an important one. Somebody called their husband at the office and got their little kid to, at the end of the message, say, "I love you, Daddy," on it. Oh my God. National security. Glad they dumped that one. So super important.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, WikiLeaks hurt itself. I mean, I think they fundraised off these Bernie Busters, but
yes,
at the end of the day, they lost a lot of credibility with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And
it pulled the rug out from underneath those protesters who spent the day putting together banners that said WikiLeaks that they unfurled at the Democratic National Convention. Meaning, oh, well, I'm talking about some of the stuff where it sounded like DNC officials were horribly biased against Bernie Sanders, but reading instead on the screen as, I support the people who tapped the phones at the DNC. Doi.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. The
Watergate does not bother me.
I mean, if at the end of the day, the leaks the emails are stupid. I was for getting rid of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, so I was happy to grab it as an excuse.
Yes. Oh, and boy, I want to make time for some articles about now all the people who felt like they had to sit on all their information, or their claims anyway. Who knows whether they're true, about Debbie Wasserman Schultz being horrible, are now free to anonymously dump this stuff with Politico. But if you're a DWS hater, you're going to enjoy Politico. I'll share some of that. I'll read it. If you're ready.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear, because I think that as much as anything is why she's gone. I mean, yeah there was an expediency in the convention to get her out of there, but look, Podesta wanted to get rid of her last year.
Yeah. And so this comports with some of that. And since are you in the car and on the move now? Because it sounds like you're speaking through a fan.
I apologize if my noise is bothering. Let me put it on mute so it's not so. Unless I have something to say.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, listen along. I'll just share this one. I think everyone will enjoy this. If I've alienated you along the way by discussing protest tactics, we can all get together. Let's unify over the ouster of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's unfair to her. I'm going to do this at her expense. Ready? Doing it anyway. DNC insiders detail months of escalating dysfunction. And again, this is basically a giant oppo dump on Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But okay. This in Politico by Edward Isaac Dovere. I'm not sure how he pronounces Dovere, but he'll get over it. As Wasserman Schultz faltered, the White House and Clinton campaign fretted but failed to act, which isn't that good for them either. But they were being tolerant. And then they couldn't stand it anymore because WikiLeaks. So good. Debbie Wasserman Schultz wasn't supposed to ask Joe Biden. You're going to love this one. I don't know if you're going to stay mute for this. Debbie Wasserman Schultz wasn't supposed to ask Joe Biden to come to her daughter's bat mitzvah. Democratic National Committee staff had sent the chair to the vice president, armed with 4 specific requests for getting him involved in raising money for the party. She decided to scrap them for 2 of her own. So, raising money for the party, the very most important function of the DNC chair. Please, Debbie, you got to go talk to the vice president. Tell him what we need to do. Put him on the game plan. Let's get started already. She says, you know what? I'm going to do 2 other things instead. One, she asked Biden to do a fundraiser for her own reelection to her House seat in Florida in the primary challenge she's facing next month. He agreed. We'll see whether that comes through. And the second was to get down to Boca Raton for that bat mitzvah. Biden's staff balked, as they ought to have.
That's a great story because it tells you everything about her tenure as DNC chair.
Is it true? I don't know, but it's a story I believe.
It's true. Come on, you know that's true.
Does she have a 13-year-old daughter? Check the facts. Okay. Damn. All right. Well, I can't save you, Debbie. Too bad.
There's no saving her. But the point being, and I'm gonna be interested to hear the other stories. She ran the DNC as her personal aggrandizement.
That's what this story says. Yeah.
Organization, the DNC. Now, interestingly, you tell that story about Biden because that was her main champion, as you know, at in the Democratic Party. Obama, he hated her, but it wasn't worth the trouble. And I think part of the trouble was telling Biden that we're getting rid of her.
Yeah.
Biden would have fought to keep her in there. And remember,
he would have looked at
the
him
fall
sadly
of
through a window.
2015, Biden was still thinking about jumping in, or pretending to, at any rate.
Right, that was out there.
So, you know what I mean? It was all it was a touchy moment. But anyway, let me let you get back to the story, and I'll go back to mute.
All right, sure. Oh, by the way, I'm noting for the record that I am followed now on Twitter by Tom Keene of Bloomberg Surveillance. That's what it says, and he's a verified fellow, so I'm not really sure who he is. I guess he writes for Bloomberg, maybe, but he's not Tom Kane, and he's not Tim Kaine. He's Tom Keene, but he nonetheless ruined New Jersey. Just thought I'd add that. So Biden's staff balks at the bat mitzvah invitation. They offered to tape a video message from him instead, hoping that would satisfy her. Wasserman Schultz eagerly said yes. They played it for everyone who came. I don't know whether they did that once or as you entered, you had to sit in a booth and watch the vice president. Anyway, the meeting with Biden was symptomatic of the way the DNC was veering off the rails just as the presidential election was heating up, which is really when you don't want that to happen. More than a dozen people inside the party apparatus, speaking in the wake of Wasserman Schultz's resignation on Sunday, describe an internal culture in which few felt they could challenge an increasingly imperious and politically tone-deaf chair who often put her own interests ahead of party functions. Now that's, so writ large, by the way, just to make that other point, if I wasn't clear enough, enlarge that to a national security apparatus and think about Edward Snowden saying, I can work within the system. Even inside the little teeny-weeny pissant DNC, by comparison, you got somebody who's destroying all chances of actually funding a successful presidential race against Donald Trump, as it turns out, and you can't get rid of her. Last week's WikiLeaks dump releasing thousands of emails showing DNC officials sparring with Bernie Sanders supporters and with one another. What finally got Hillary Clinton's top aides to force her out Sunday on the eve of the convention. Remember also, this comports with what we told you about what happens at the DNC once a nominee is selected. It begins to transition into the nominees' apparatus. They literally move people in from the campaign and from the DNC out and say, some people stay in place for continuity's sake, but you now have a monitor, essentially a shadow from the campaign to make sure that you're doing the campaign thing. So now she's really got the power to do that, to move her out. And I also will say, but, the objection obviously comes, but she was her co-chair in 2008 and now she's an honorary co-chair now, or whatever title they get. And I will also introduce the concept brought over from the way the English handle things of getting kicked upstairs, right? Pain in the ass member of the House of Commons, or perhaps pain in the ass ex-prime minister. Let's say Margaret Thatcher, for instance, right? That was the last example of how that went. Well, you can really be troublesome here, but not only to the opponent, but to your own party, where it gets to be like, oh my God, again with the Thatcher thing. And so you say, tell you what we're going to do. Can we talk to the Queen and get her a life peerage so we can kick her to the House of Lords and she can still feel important? And she won't be insulted and go around trying to take revenge on people, but really we're just getting her the hell out of Commons, which counts, and parking her in Lords, which doesn't. I think that might be what's going on here too. Cut her loose. Well, okay, that could maybe, I don't know whether it really would jeopardize her seat, even if she lost her primary, but I don't know what her political situation is in Florida, but just please get her out of here.
Yeah, her seat isn't in jeopardy,
Okay.
I don't think at all. You've got to understand her district. She's not in danger to Canova, and she's definitely not in danger to any Republican.
All right, so you got to park her somewhere.
She's well liked in her district. I mean, that's the reality. I mean,
Okay.
I don't like her at all, but
so you don't say
she's not in my district. But,
I'm not going to endanger my campaign as Hillary Clinton by dinging somebody who's popular in a important district in Florida where people are going to vote, and I need them to both, if they love Debbie, terrific. I need their votes, terrific.
I think there's a couple of reasons why she got a title now. One, we just needed to go down quickly. Convention was about to start.
Right.
You needed her to go away quietly.
Yes.
So you had to find a way that she wouldn't stretch this out for 2 days. I mean, remember the first negotiation part of it? All right. Well, I'll resign at the end of the convention, but I'll gavel it in and get it out. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't be here.
Yeah. She was there. I mean, she stayed. She had a suite.
I saw her during Obama's speech, that they showed her in some seat somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But, she was persona non grata. I mean, that's just the way it went.
Yeah.
And again, I think the reason she left is complete nonsense. She couldn't, even if she wanted to, she could not rig the primary. People
the DNC chair just doesn't have that power.
Yeah, the emails didn't really show that, but it was just the last straw. You know what? This is a great. Okay, it's splashy. We can throw a bone to people who have a good point here.
And by the way, we wanted her gone anyway.
Yeah.
I went to President Obama, John Podesta would tell you, last year trying to get rid of her.
Yeah.
And Obama wouldn't do it.
Well,
and Obama didn't do it because he liked her. He didn't want the trouble because she's a pain.
Right.
And she has friends, including the vice president, who would have made a fuss for her.
So a good solution is give her something that she can hold up and say exactly what Hillary Clinton detractors will say. See, she still likes Debbie. And Debbie can go around saying, see, I'm not persona non grata. And now I'll take the deal versus you're out, I hate you, everybody hates you. Well, then she, now, you know, you don't want to really, as ineffectual as sometimes particularly a poor
She's the first
DNC
Democratic
chair.
chairman that I can recall that was, had her name stamped on the tickets to the convention in 2 consecutive conventions.
Is that right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever taken a quick look at that, but it doesn't surprise me based on what's in this story.
I happened to because I got mine, and then I found my old lanyard from Charlotte, and I said, "Wow, Debbie Wasserman Schultz."
Well, it's a designer lanyard now. So
exactly.
Well, I'll tell a little more of these stories, and you can enjoy them. I'll return to this here. Last week's, where did I leave off, right? So she's forced out. Now, all DNC senior staffers seem to believe they're on the verge of being fired, which they are, I mean, and would have been even if she had been a great chairman, really. They might have been transitioned to new positions, but the campaign comes in now. And personal power politics being what they are, if you come in as a high-ranking campaign official and you get transitioned to the DNC office, you start, moving plants and rearranging furniture to let the other guy know they're on their way out. And that's before, to return to the article, the next WikiLeaks release, which many fear is coming within days and which DNC lawyers are bracing for. Several staff members have already been asked to prepare statements about their departures. Again, probably would have happened anyway, but now it'll be that much more forceful. Staff members were briefed in a Tuesday afternoon meeting in Washington.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
You can.
Why doesn't the DNC just release the emails?
I don't know.
I mean, they have them. I mean, no, it's one thing they got hacked.
Maybe they're spending time vetting them and curating them.
Well,
I don't know.
And you already know you probably know what the worst ones are, and you know who they are.
Yeah. Also,
might as well get out in front of it.
I guess
it
now
seems to me.
Yeah,
but
they
anyway,
might. I don't know whether releasing the emails would be the way to do it, but you might very well come and say, "Here's a round of replacements we're making with people from the campaign. Some of this was scheduled to happen anyway. Others we're accelerating the schedule based on our own investigation of what was revealed in the email releases. But we're not going to release the emails. I'm sure WikiLeaks will eventually go ahead and do that, but I'm not going to. You want to shoot me in the head, do it. I'm not going to shoot myself. But these are the people that we think need to go, and they're going. Anyway, so now many of them
are...
All
right, but even that, who the problems are going to be, so why not just give them a nice, graceful exit before the leaks occur?
Yeah, maybe they're working on it. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're not.
Well, hurry up.
But, yeah, they had this big meeting going on, and they needed to do their thing, and some of the people, who are on their way out are the people who know where the levers and switches are to make the balloons fall. So, okay, you get them to do their job, they finish out, they get 2 weeks, what have you. So we'll see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're obstinate and they're digging in their heels. No way for me to know. Okay, so Tuesday they got their briefing, which told them, by the way, that their personal data was part of the hack, as were social security numbers and other information for donors, according to people who attended. Don't search WikiLeaks, they were told. Malware is embedded throughout the site, and they're looking for more data. I heard that alleged earlier. I don't know whether that's been established to be true or not, but always be careful whenever you're downloading anything, and if you're downloading something from international fugitives from justice, then be that much more careful. This was all done to influence the 2016 election, they were told. Wasserman Schultz battled to the end, but the dysfunction within the DNC had been mounting for months, according to interviews with over a dozen people in and around the organization. Wasserman Schultz's detractors extend from party officials to the White House, to the Clinton campaign, even though she was widely viewed as favoring Clinton. She was. And many of them say they worry that the email drama has obscured the full picture of what went wrong on Wasserman Schultz's watch, which they worry won't be fixed unless there's a more complete airing. So maybe there's even strategic reason inside the organization to let that airing happen.
I think that generally bureaucratic infighting now is going to be, I never liked her anyway for almost anybody who can say that.
Right, even people who loved her.
In particular for the Clinton campaign, probably less so now after the convention. But they want to be, listen, that Podesta story about going in the fall of 2015 to get rid of her, that didn't leak by accident.
No.
The Clinton campaign says, you can't make me take the fall for Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Right.
Is basically the argument.
And
we never liked her. We tried to get rid of her.
Right. I'd be faking that if I could. I'm sure if I had a position worth.
Right.
Defending.
I think it's actually genuinely true. As I said, I followed the reporting and knew about the fact that she was really tied to Biden and she wasn't really close to Clinton. I know people say, "Oh, but she was chair of this and that." There's 50 chairs in almost every thing, I mean, at one point, Alan Grayson was on the Clinton, was co-chair of the Clinton's Florida campaign.
Huh.
I kid you not. In February, when it was first announced, there was like 30 people on the list. Alan Grayson was one of them.
Yeah. Well,
later he went and did this whole thing about doing an online poll to see who he should be for.
Right.
But before that, he was announced as a co-chair of the Clinton campaign.
Yeah. I mean, those are the sorts of things that get doled out. And you have 50 co-chairs because you don't want to insult anybody, and co-chairs don't do anything, so you just make everybody who asks.
So they might have an obligation to raise $25,000 or something like that.
Right. That's true. It does. It comes with that. They don't make any. It's not any policy. You don't have her ear. You don't meet with her. The idea is, we make you look like you're an insider, and in exchange, you will deliver X dollars. I don't care how you get it, just deliver them. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
Okay, so by the way, that's filthy and corrupt.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. I mean, my point is,
I'm not wrong. I'm not lying. But
listen,
it depends what you
your
mean by
favorite
corruption.
charity when they have that big dinner and it has 50 co-chairs
works the same way.
Same thing.
Filthy and corrupt. And fine. I love cancer then. See, I'm on cancer's side because I know it's corrupt. The world is smarmy and gross. Get used to it.
This is the ocean we swim in. I mean, let's clean it up.
You can do things better. You can do things worse. You can cheat and raise your $25,000 from the mafia. Or you can say, I raised it $27 at a time. I broke my ass. I didn't do a goddamn thing other than that, but I wanted to do it with integrity. It cost me a couple of opportunities to do some good things for people, but now I'll get back to that. Yeah. It can be done many ways, but very often it's done in $1,000 and $5,000 chunks and through bundlers, and some of them have hedge funds. It sucks, but I got to get the job done because I need to get back and vote for Zika funding. I'm limited in what I can do here. That's life.
Yeah, you're taking me down a turn, and I'm not going to make my Buckley v. Vallejo versus Citizens United point. So you go ahead. Because there are campaign finance limits. It's $2,700 per person.
Mm-hmm.
It's the super PACs, but the super PACs exist because of Buckley, not because of Citizens United. Anyway.
All right. Yes, we'll keep that in mind.
That was my spiel. It was in her speech being anti-Citizens United, but she needs to be anti-Buckley v. Vallejo as well.
And if you say that, 17 people go, wow, that's smart, and 100 million people go, what? What
are you talking about?
Man.
When was this Buckley case?
Yeah,
1976?
Right. Yeah. So,
and it was, trivia, it was brought by William F. Buckley's brother, James.
Ah, okay.
He's the Buckley.
Well, that's nice. It's good of him to ruin America.
And he ruined it.
Okay. But yeah, you had to go to law school to know that. I mean, basically, you could study campaign finance reform, certainly, and have come around to that as well. But that's why you can't just waive constitutions, as we were saying earlier.
Exactly.
Okay, so.
Have you read the Constitution, the part where it says money equals speech?
No, I missed that part. Well,
yes,
you missed it because it's a penumbra, which is another reation you can't just read the Constitution, because there's no penumbras in there either.
Show me in the text.
Right.
Where it says money equals speech.
Textualist. Right. And why is that not inherently hypocritical and contradictory necessarily 100% of the time? Again, people spend 3 to 4 years studying this. I have 10 minutes. So here's the Constitution, everybody. Yeah,
right.
Awesome.
Exactly. But I thought it was great.
Yes.
Politics is what it is. I mean, one of my favorite sayings invented by me is politics is stupid. I'm like, that was a Trump moment for me.
That was
great.
Very
Look
crystalline.
At this great saying I came up with.
Well, my favorite expression, which I made up, is "This is stupid." That really sums it up. To be honest, that's really great.
I should tweet that out.
That was perfectly. I don't know what I was.
When Trump quotes
Trump,
it's the funniest thing. I'm going to start doing that too.
Okay, you know what? All right, you need a parody account. Well, let me get to some of the other stories here, because I know people will salivate.
In fact, I'm going to go and I'm going to let you finish.
Yes, you work on the parody account and listen along. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks for letting me have some fun this morning.
Yes, thank you for carrying me through the week. Take care. All right, let's see. Where were we? Wasserman Schultz battled to the end. Interviews with a dozen people who said she sucked and it was great and they should get rid of her. Wasserman Schultz's detractors extend from party officials to the White House to the Clinton campaign, even though she was widely viewed as favoring Clinton. Yes? And many of them say they worry that the email drama has obscured the full picture of what went wrong on Wasserman Schultz's watch, and they won't be fixed unless there's a more complete airing. This WikiLeaks release didn't peel back all the layers of the onion of incompetence, said one person inside the DNC, but it broke the fever. Straw that broke the camel's back, right? Not a terribly important release in terms of really figuring out what was going on in the DNC, but just another one of those, God damn it. And there will be people who say, but don't fire her because it'll make the Bernie bros look right. And it got to the point where it's like, you know what? Maybe they are. And maybe they're not, but I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. It's terrible for us. And at some point, I don't really care who scores points over this. We're going to lose if we don't do this. Man, I'm getting close to a little bit of profanity. Okay, so it broke the fever, right? Neither the White House nor Clinton's campaign made the moves to oust her earlier for fear of an untimely blow-up. You had to have that in mind, right? You had to say, well, she's going to be out after the convention anyway. Or she's going to be out eventually anyhow. I kept saying it, right? And you might have said, if I can avoid drama, I'll do it. But if we start making waves, I can't control the timing anymore. And so it was uncontrollable in the end. When waves got made, despite their better efforts, they really had to scramble. I'm sure everybody involved would much rather not have had to resolve that Sunday going into Monday of convention. Right? That's the untimeliness they were looking to avoid. Her support of the Iran deal and the Trans-Pacific Partnership helped keep the West Wing from going too hard after her. But senior aides to Clinton and President Barack Obama had long ago run out of patience with what they saw as her attempts to constantly insert herself and clumsily try to ingratiate herself at Clinton's Brooklyn headquarters. It was an inch-by-inch battle for everything. And Debbie didn't make it easy, not because she was trying to stay neutral, but because she was trying to maintain control, said one person familiar with DNC operations. Wasserman Schultz refused, without direct explanation at the time, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's request to have 3 members of Congress testify at the First Party Platform Committee meeting in early June, leading Pelosi to have to clear her schedule that day and show up herself to speak about House Democratic priorities. Right? Debbie's in the House. Your minority leader, your party leader says, I want you to do this thing. so that we can get House Democratic priorities on the record in the platform meeting. And she says no. And, I mean, at some point you wonder, does Pelosi say, the f*** are you talking about? You know what? I'm going to... maybe she doesn't want to take it out on her in her position in the House or whatever. But what ends up happening, she's got better things to do. More important things to do. Maybe even just dumb things to do, like raise a bunch of money, which is also important. Instead, Nancy Pelosi has to change her schedule because somebody's got to tell the goddamn platform committee what the House Democratic priorities are, so that we make sure that we're all on the same page here. And I asked if I could delegate this to somebody, and she said no, and I don't know why. And now I got to do it. Somebody has to be there. Now you force me to do it. So now she's pissed. When Obama, and this is what it means to end up with no friends, by the way. Just a quick parallel. It doesn't need to be a shot again at Bernie, just general political, operational truths here. If you rub everybody the wrong way and then find yourself in trouble, you're going to be out. Or you rub everybody the wrong way, or a lot of people the wrong way, and then you ask, can I be nominated by all of you? The answer is going to be no. All right. Anyway, so that's what happened to Pelosi. When Obama agreed to do a DNC fundraiser, and that should not be difficult to do, but, you got to schedule and coordinate. Obama agreed to do a DNC fundraiser in Miami in June, and in the end, went out of his way in public remarks to talk about why Wasserman Schultz needed to be reelected. It's the job of the president. I'm leading the party. She's the incumbent, and who knows? I mean, I guess at that point she had a challenger, to be sure, but fine. Look, I almost wish she would just lose, and the challenger would then win the seat. But okay, I understand the dynamics of things, politics being what it is. Swallow it. So he goes out of his way to be kind. She, for weeks, hassled the White House political director, David Simas. Simas? How does he say that? I'm not familiar with him. He hassled the White House political director to get 10 of the 60 seats at the fundraiser. A little exclusive sort of thing. 60 seats, $10,000 a seat. Right? For this event. Give me 10 out of the 60? What? So she wants 10 seats at the event for her congressional reelection campaign's biggest donors. You give me lots of money for my campaign, I'll reward you with seats at this exclusive. There's only going to be 60 people there. You're going to get to talk to the president. Close up and personal. Okay, that's horrific, but it gets worse. Did she even do it? Did she even reward her campaign's biggest donors with those awesome seats? No. She ended up filling the seats, according to people involved with planning the event, with family and friends, who may also be their biggest donors. That's entirely possible. Now you imagine this, right? Now this story breaks. You are one of Debbie Wasserman Schultz's biggest donors, and you're actually kind of pissed, perhaps, at her ouster because she was your connection to everything. You got lots of perks at the convention because you were a big donor to her. And then she's out, and then you didn't get your perks, and then you found out, I wanted to be at that thing. I could have been there for free. She said she was going to hook me up, and she gave it to her family and friends instead. I got screwed by her again. Wow, that's not going to work out real well. A DNC spokesperson did not dispute the Biden and Obama encounters. As for blocking Pelosi's request, the spokesperson said, well, it was because the session was set up to hear from grassroots voices. This is actually like a decent sounding excuse, even if it's not true. Grassroots voices, as well as stakeholders around specific issues. When Leader Pelosi raised the question of testifying on the innovation agenda, Chairwoman Wasserman Schultz welcomed her testimony, and she testified at the hearing. It was all just as it should have been. A decision about how much money to transfer to state parties, big hot issue, right? That was supposed to be made in consultation with DNC officers who come from all the state parties, right? Was instead made unilaterally by Wasserman Schultz and without warning, angering top brass, as will happen. And that was one of the top hot issues from the WikiLeaks dump. And somebody, true or not, now says, all her fault. Man, that's hard to believe, except it's somehow not hard to believe. Because she's been alienating people all along. another one of our laws of thermodynamics in politics. Other DNC officers, directly aware of many of the problems and told by staff about others, were constantly talking to one another about what was going wrong and how to get around a chair who was adamant that she would stay through the end of her term in January, much less the end of the convention. In the last 8 weeks, there was a growing sense that it just wasn't going to work, and it was only a matter of time, one officer said. Frustration within the DNC, the White House, and the Clinton campaign was exacerbated by Wasserman Schultz's efforts to raise her own profile by appearing more often on national television, which is part of the job. But, on the other hand, that's really the biggest part of the job in the interim years. When you're about to embark on a presidential campaign, there are maybe other surrogates you want in there. Luis Miranda, communications director whom Wasserman Schultz hired last September, pitched her hard in their interview on how he would get her on TV more often. He got the job over two candidates who were recommended by the Clinton campaign. Okay, maybe it wasn't time to transition to them exactly yet. The biggest problem with the communications department right now is that we don't put Debbie out there enough, Miranda said at his first staff meeting after coming on board in September, according to people in the room. Gee whiz, how did you get the job? I mean, that's just smart interview strategy. I can't fault him for that. Being interviewed for the job by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. My job, as I see it, is making you awesome. Wow, you're great. We should hire you. He's smart. Requests for comment from Wasserman Schultz and Miranda were directed to a DNC spokesperson. Not the communications director. The DNC got suggestions for the communications director job from many sources and filled the position with a highly qualified communications professional who had DNC experience, Obama 08, and White House communications office experience, and experience with communications in the private sector, said a DNC spokesperson. Managing the press profile of the DNC chair is part of the job, as anyone who has ever worked at the DNC under any chairperson will tell you. And that's all true. But Wasserman Schultz's increased television activity increased her problems. After the raucous Nevada State Convention in May, she went on the attack against Sanders and his supporters, and an enraged Sanders responded by calling for her resignation. Just at the point when Democratic leaders were hoping to shift more toward party unity, she'd inflamed the situation and put herself in the middle of it. The people who were willing to look the other way stopped looking the other way, said another person familiar with DNC operations. Just to pause here once again to shill for Brazil, to shill for Donna Brazil on this one. Remember, this is basically the same situation in which they said, Donna, do you want to talk to the press about this Nevada situation? And she said, you know what? It's going to make things worse. So, no. I decline to appear on television or speak to the press to get my name out there, etc., because it's just wrong for the party. Not the time to be doing it. I'll be counterproductive. No, thank you. Well, how about you, Debbie? Yep, I'm in. Let's go. That's how you get pushed out and you get replaced by Donna Brazil. She sometimes failed to show up at headquarters to make donor calls. What other thing could possibly be more important at this stage? Or she didn't stay long for when she did. Key staffers couldn't find her after her personal staff had stopped sending her schedule to all but two top staffers, which the DNC spokesperson said was due to security concerns as the email hack was being investigated. More and more, the DNC staff, the White House, and the Clinton campaign simply wrote her off. There was nothing we could do with her, so we just stopped pretending, another DNC staffer said. She became so ineffective for the building, inside the DNC headquarters, right, that we just stopped using her. Meanwhile, Wasserman Schultz accentuated an existing divide with Amy Dacey, who was committee CEO, was supposed to have control over all operations. She was often left out of the loop of decisions by the chair's staff, sometimes leading to contradictory plans. One hand didn't know what the other hand was doing, lamented one state party chair. After Clinton won the nomination in June, her campaign moved quickly to try to take control of the DNC. Sanders supporters would remind her she didn't win the nomination until, July, right now, at this convention. But okay. So in June, they knew. Her campaign moves quickly to try to take control of the DNC, as they're supposed to do. But when Brandon Davis, former political director of the Service Employees International Union, was brought in to the DNC by Clinton, by the campaign manager, Robbie Mook, to be the campaign's eyes and ears in the party office. See? Wasserman Schultz made comments both in introducing him to the full staff and in private conversations, encouraging people to see him as working for her. How nice. I've had these bosses. Wasserman Schultz couldn't stop Davis's hiring, but when the campaign tried to bring a senior communications aide in who'd supervise Miranda, she dug in against the move, infuriating the Clinton campaign anew, according to people familiar with discussions. Again, so why bring her onto the campaign? Because you're kicking her upstairs. It's part of the deal. You know what? I'll take the ding to just make this goddamn thing work. Part of the job, says Obama. And Clinton maybe agrees. Oh, maybe she loves this person who brings nothing but opprobrium. Sure. Wasserman Schultz, meanwhile, has remained in Philadelphia, attending events day and night with her police escort and having her assistant reach out aggressively, microaggressively even, to donors, urging them to see her in her suite at the Wells Fargo Center, her base, while in town. She reserved it for herself, and it's in the contract. So, she keeps it. She hasn't seen DNC staffers since she stopped by their meeting of shaken staff Sunday night within hours of Obama calling her to accept her resignation. President Obama's on the line. Awesome. It's to actually accept your resignation. What? Anyway, so then the comment that made the rounds. So here's what I guess she had to say to the shaken staff on Sunday. Quote, and all those scumbags who are giving you crap, she uses the S word, on social media, she concluded, according to several attendees, F them. They don't know the first thing. They don't know you. That was pretty mature and adult. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. That wraps up. Does it give you a nice picture? Do you feel better? I mean, actually, it kind of makes me feel like, okay, good, fine. I mean, I was ready to get rid of her anyway. If you weren't, maybe you are now. I think that was pretty important. And it may all just be an oppo dump at this point and just not right or true. But it certainly comports with everything everybody just basically thought about what was going on in there. All right. What else can I cram in here before we give up the microphones to the guys in the after show and take the weekend off, only to return triumphantly with the help of Greg Dworkin, I'm sure, next week. And the big welcome back after a week off to Joan McCarter as well. Well, let's see. Here's a couple of tidbits. Just thought I'd throw this one in there. Remember from the speech last night when Hillary Clinton described going to then President Bush's office immediately post 9/11 and making it clear what they needed for New York. That was a kind of a confusing sequence of events, right? I mean, I thought that was weird. She was outraged, rightly, that there was $0 in the request from the president for New York, and then you'd think he was sticking it to New York for some reason, maybe because they have two Democratic senators who then show up in the White House, and he says, tell me what you need, and they say $20 billion, and he says, okay. So it was 0 to 20 billion on okay? You guys are weird. Anyway, I just thought it would maybe be worth pointing out that Donald Trump, the Donald, stole a small chunk of that money for himself. Just reminding you about that one. Remember, he used the 9/11 funds program to tuck away $150,000 for himself, saying that his buildings, which were blocks away from Ground Zero, were in fact damaged or impacted, basically, in the attacks. What ended up happening, I think they used his building to store some materials nearby the Ground Zero site. And the way he has things divided up in his vast empire, which is worth billions and employs a bazillion people, this one he just said, oh, well, I'm a small business, you see, because we're only talking about this one building. So how many people do I employ in that building, and what are the revenues of that building? Cram it down so that it fits underneath the small business wire and take $150,000 for 9/11. That's what Donald Trump did. Just thought I think it's probably worth reminding everybody about that story. And then I guess one more that I might be able to cram in there just by way of adding a few additional stories here. Let's see. Oh, yes. Right. This one. Down the memory hole. Just one more thing that went down there. Melania Trump's biography has apparently undergone some revisions as well. Not only was she stealing the speech, but maybe a little bit more along the way as well. I guess this is a minor point, but just another thing to throw on the stack. Apparently, she claimed to have degrees in, design and architecture from the University of Slovenia, which who's going to check, right? And you know what? I don't even know what it's worth to have. I'm sure the University of Slovenia is fantastic. Anyway, it turns out that, now that people are actually looking, because nobody in the world, I swear, it's not even possible to imagine a person somewhere in the world giving a flying crap about whether Melania has a degree or not, and where it's from and what it's in. But as it turns out, in the context of a presidential election, everybody wants to fact check. Fine. Maybe I don't have a degree. Maybe what I meant was I don't have a degree. I use degree antiperspirant. That's what it was. And so I was right in the end. Anyway, so apparently that's been taken down from her websites and the Trump Organization website. And I don't know whether that's worth a goddamn thing to anybody. It's just more fuel for the fire, which is already a raging garbage inferno as it is. Okay. So speaking of all the raging garbage infernos in the world, the after show is going to keep fanning the flames of part of the Trump garbage fire and probably some other ones too. What's up for Angle of Repose Friday on the after show? The NRA, garbage fire. The NRA's pro-Trump video prominently features a Sandy Hook truther. God damn it, those people are disgusting. He's like the upper decker of humanity. Anyway, featuring a Sandy Hook truther who had stalked and harassed grieving families. An Oregon man with cornrows is profiled at a family-friendly sports bar and arcade after a white customer loses her wallet. Everybody thought it was Johnny, but he was with baby that night. And the Navy is set to name a ship after pioneer gay activist and assassinated San Francisco City Councilman Harvey Milk. On the last half, the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center will tell you a little bit about it after this.
From Daily Co's Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Exciting stuff. Elon Musk is set to spend $320 million of his SpaceX budget on his joint NASA mission to Mars. And the laws of friction have been discovered in what has long been dismissed as Da Vinci's irrelevant notes and diagrams. The laws of friction, wow.